So in this class, we're gonna study how to manipulate the DOM using JavaScript selector. So DOM is simply what? Document object model. So this is all about objects which have been compressed on the interfaces of HTML. So we're gonna see how we can simply manipulate these DOM. So let's get started with the first one. So we want to look at how we can actually select some stuff outside the body using kind of a DOM manipulation. So let's look at this. It gives you the basic understanding of how the whole DOM actually works in HTML and JavaScript. So we say document.write, and for document.write we can call the document, which is the word doc, and get it by element. So we can get any element on top of this HTML page, anything inside the DOM, just by manipulating it using the DOM. So we said document.element. So here means we can get any element we want from the screen here or inside the DOM. So document.element.get attribute. So we're getting an attribute. What attribute do we want to get from the interface? Let's say we want to get the language, which is the LAN at the top here, right? So here, if we print this out, let me see, document.write. So when we print this out, we should get English here because we actually selected the attribute line from this HTML here. So it gives us, the attribute gives us what? EN, which stands for English. So this is how you can select something on the DOM. Great. So let's say we want to actually set a background color for the entire body using the DOM manipulation. What we can do is have our document. So we want to manipulate the DOM, which is using the document. Then we want to do something on the body itself. Then we call the body, and then we call the style. Since we want to apply a background to it, then we'll call background. So we're trying to manipulate and add a color to the body. So this here, we can set the color to anything we want here. So let me set this to red. So that means the entire body needs to change to red. So this is another way to manipulate the DOM by targeting the body and then adding a style of background to that. For example, we wanted to select an attribute from the top, so we did use the document element. So this is the document, then we have the element, so document element, and then we get a particular attribute from this document element, which is the line. Okay, so this gives you the basic and the deep understanding of how the DOM actually works. Then we want to print tag names of header element. So we just want to play with the header element. So for example we can use let me see, we can do document. Then first we want to get an element from head, which is the head tag, and then we want to get the first element child of that head, and that one first child. Then we do dot the node, so node name. So when we check here, we should see that the first element child dot should reference to the node name inside the head. And when we check the head, this is the first element child we have here, which is meta. So we have meta displaying here. What if we want to check the second element tag by the node? We'll not have it because we can only do the first element tag. So this is just using the node to select this tag itself. This is actually title. So we have one first element child where we can fetch from the entire node we have here inside our DOM. So this is a simple way of manipulating the DOM. Okay, what if we want to access body element from different location, the body element from a different location? For example, if we want to access the head from a different location, it might be throwing us an error. Let's try that. For example, if we have a JS script here, and then we want to get from the head, which is this side. So in here I say from head so we're trying to see what we can get from the head there. So the document dot body. Okay, so let's see what we can get on the screen. Now we get and now returning, because it's just gonna throw that now to us. Just gonna throw that now. We can get that data from there. And what if we do the same thing inside? We do this same thing inside the body itself to get some information from the head there. We're gonna have object HTML body elements. That means it's only telling us, okay, there's an object HTML body element there, but there's nothing to show. Great. So we were just checking how we can manipulate the DOM from other location and see what displays, and inside the body what also displays. So let's see if we want to do select an element by its ID attribute. So for example, in the body, let's say we have a p tag, which is the paragraph tag, and then we add an ID to it, ID, and let's say this is Mac, so ID. So we say, let's say this is paragraph. Okay, paragraph, and then we have another p tag. This is paragraph 2 without an ID. Okay, so what we are doing here to select an element by its ID, using its ID. So for example, in this script we can have a variable called match. Let's just name it match, and then it's equal to, let's say, document dot get document dot get element. So element by ID, and for this ID will be what we have at the first document, which is called Mac. And then second, we can, let me first see what we'll get on the screen. So that means we have the first paragraph showing and then the second paragraph also showing. So that means we can get element on the screen or in the body just by calling it ID. Great. So what if we want to highlight the element's background? So to highlight the element background, to see the element we've selected, we can simply call this variable we have here, which is match, and then we can add some background to it. So just trying to learn the basic on understanding how to manipulate or document on the web. So style.background, let's say we want to use background. Let's say we want to use yellow here. Okay, so we have the element with the ID. We are matching and fixing a style to it, which is yellow. So it's only targeting this p tag with the mark, which is the ID itself. So that is how we can easily target IDs on the screen. Okay, what if we have a class, like our ID is actually a class instead of an ID? For example, let's say this is a class and we want to get this class. We simply type in it, or we have mark already. So this is how, the same way we get the ID is the same way we can get the class. But there's one thing which changes. Instead to get element by ID, we can get element by class name. So here we change this side to class name. Then it's gonna print and show us what we got for that class name. So when we have this match here, which is document.getElementByClass, it only shows this and this, but it does not print the color as we did on the test. So you see it's showing a little bit different here. What if we want to change the format of the test by what we just did, grabbing the ID, and then also if we want to style it a little bit different by the same class we are using. So this is what we can do to play around this class here. So first we want to try and then select the class which we have selected here. Third, we want to display the selected element count. Okay, so we want to try and see what we have selected. We want to see the number of what we have selected on the screen. So let's say we want to do document dot write, and for this document dot write we're gonna have what we've selected, and that is match. So match dot length. Okay, and this is a number of things we've selected, which is 1. So we've only selected one thing on the screen, which is the first paragraph we have there using the class. Okay, so what if you want to apply format to what we have selected? Now we can do that by simply calling the match, just like what we did for the color for the class, like this match, but we need to add the index of that, which is 0, if we want to select a specific class with content using its index. Then we can do that by passing in this index, which is the first one on the list. So we've selected the first P, which is 0 on the index. So let's add a star to it. We have a star color here, but here we want to do a font weight here. Font weight. Okay, and then a font weight, we assign this to bold. Let's see what we got here. Okay, so we selected the first index, which is 0, and then assign a star bold to it. Now, what if we want to apply italic to the element we've selected? Okay, what we can do is to simply use the same idea we have here, but this time around we can do something like match dot length minus 1. So here -1 means it's gonna apply to this particular one. So let's look at how that it's gonna display. So style dot, let's change this one to font style. Font style, and then we'll set this to italic. So match, and we have match dot length -1. Then we have style, font style. We start with a capital X, and then we go italic. Okay, let's go. Okay, now we have changed the first paragraph into what? Italic. So the same 0 we got has changed into italic. What if I change this one to 2? Okay, then nothing happens because the only class we're targeting is on the index 0. Alright, so we have the match dot length minus 10 dot style font italic. Now let's see if we can highlight each element background through a loop. If we can try to highlight each element through the loop. So let's do for loop here, and we say let in match. Then we can do match element. That's what we're trying to do. Element match element and match element in match. Okay, we did. Now let's go this way. Let's do this one, that's the dot background, and the background is actually, let's set it to red. No, let's set it to yellow. Okay, so now we still have our first one showing up here, and let's check this one. Let me first comment this one. Let me first comment this, then we'll see what we get now. Let me add this. Let me add this to the comment here. Oh, okay. So everything we're doing is actually applying to the index 0. So let's check this one. If comment the italic side, and then we check the bold, we have the first one displaying. Great. Now let me comment this, and then uncomment this one. Okay, and then we get the same thing displaying. So we are using 4 for the display, and then we have now selected the length, and the length was showing before we even had this. The length was showing with the class here, and then we have the length of 2. So this is how we can manipulate the DOM of a JavaScript as well. So what if we want to select element by tag name? To select element by tag name, we can simply do that by, instead of selecting this with the class, we can simply change this class to a tag. So we can select the p tag itself here, instead to select the class or something else. We can select the tag itself here, and then we can print, or we can print the length of the tags here, which is 2. So we get 1, 2 tag here, and we can also check if we have other tags in here. For example, if we have extra tag beneath this, we can also select the tag, and then we can perform the dot length on it. So this is also another way of targeting tags on the HTML DOM. Okay, let's look at selecting element with CSS selectors. So let's have an ordered list here. Ordered list, then we'll have a list in here. We have one list. Okay, let's have one list here, another list here. So first list, we say we have a bread here, and then here we're gonna have simple class. Let's say tick, and then we have coffee here. Let's have another list, and we say we have cake here. Okay, so we can select all the li element by using this same match document.get element by tag. No, not by tag, but we have to do by selector. All. So what are we selecting? We are selecting the order list, and then the list from there. Let's see if we can do a count on it. Yeah, so it's selecting everything we have here, because select all. ordered and unordered lists. We have this here. That's where we have the tag showing down there. Okay, so this can actually select everything we have here using the tags, and then it will display whatever selector. So now let's look at DOM styling. So DOM styling, we'll be looking at adding inline styles to an element. So for example, if we want to try this, we can have some paragraph tag here, and we'll have ID, and this ID we're gonna have intro. That will be for this tag. This will be our ID for it, just for an example. So this is info. Okay, then we'll have a second paragraph added to it, the same but one without an ID. And then let's say this is an info, another. Okay, then we'll have button, and then for button we're gonna set some on-click event for what we are about doing. So let's say what type of button is this. We'll set it to button, and then let's set the intro info, the intro info style. Let's set it here. Okay, so let's say we have this 3 tags, and we want to have a click event that will apply a style from in a script file, which we'll be doing soon. So let's say the on click, we'll be having a function call here yet to set that function. Okay, now let's see what we got on the screen. So now we have info and all that. So when we click this, nothing happens. Okay, so inside here we want to learn how we add styling to the DOM, which is very easy. We have done some of this example in the previous videos. So let's say we want to set this function name to set style. Okay, then we'll have set style. Let's have a function curly braces, and in here we'll call this function name, so that anything we do in there, it's gonna actually trigger when this button is called. So in here we'll have, let's say element, but let's get it short. We're trying to apply some styling to some element. So we have documents dot getElementById. Let's do getElementById, and for this we're gonna get our ID from the intro we have at the top there, this side, intro. And then after we get the element by ID, now let's look at applying style. Okay, on the elements. Okay, so here we simply call the variable elem, and then we add dot style, and then we're gonna add a color to this element. So we have color here, and we have to set any color. So let's say I'm setting it to blue. Okay, now we have style on which element? The getElementById, which is this one. So when I go this way, we should get a blue there. When I click on the button, we got blue there. When I refresh, nothing is there, but when I click on the function, then it gives us what? The color blue. So we are applying some styling to our element inside the body tag. Okay, so what if we want to apply font to the element we are calling by ID? Now we've applied color. Now we can also do font size here. So font size, and then we can set this to any pixels we want. So let's say we want 18 pixels. Okay, 18 pixels. Let's see what we get. Now I click on it, it increases the size of the text and also the color at the same time, because we are actually executing this function using this on-click in the button. So then we can have another styling applied to. We can add font width. Font width means how bold it's gonna look like. So let me do font width, and then here let's assign bold to this. So now we're gonna have this text turn into bold as well. So this we change to color, bold, and then the size. Great. So now that is bold here we got on the screen. So we display this for you to see the differences between these two. Okay, let's now get star information from elements. Now we want to get the style information. So instead of adding style to it, now we want to get the kind of styling we have for these tags. How can we get that if we don't know this style here? Okay, so we can easily, let's say I want to convert this and apply it inline, and then I'll try to get what styling this particular p tag have. So I will simply let me see. I'll simply take off this, and then I'm still gonna have these two to show the differences, but for the first one what I'll do is to add an inline styling to it. So here let's say I want to call inline styling. I'm not gonna use the function, so I'll have color here, and color, let's say I set this to a brownish red, brown, and then I'll add a font. Let me add a font size of 20 here, and then let me see. Okay, we got font size and color. That should be fine. Now let's see what we can do by trying to identify the styling we have for this element. So let's take off this one out. Okay, so to do that, we will say we have still element by ID, which we got here, but I don't want us to use this side of it. Okay, so we still call the same, let me see, still call the same ID. Okay, so now let's say we want to get the style for element. Okay, how do we do that? We simply do that by using the document.write here, and we will call the variable element, and then use star dot. Now we want to see which star do we want to actually see on the element. We can first check what color I get. So let's check that. This tells us it's brown. Okay, so as we can see here, it's apparently brown. What if I change this, let's say to another color? Oh, Okay, so I got this color. Now let's see if we'll be able to get it on the screen. Okay, so we apparently got the RGB color for it. So that is how this works. So depending on which color code you got in there, then it's gonna pop up. So if we pick out this and then we put red, which is this one, instead of the RGB showing, it's gonna show red down there. So this is how we grab style info from an element using the style dot the property, but you need to grab it by its ID. And then